Just waiting for a few people to jump on. Say hi. Oh, hello, Michelle. Hello, are Olos in? I don't know if they're in yet. Are they? Are you telling me they are in? I haven't been talking to Heather. They've been so busy that I've been trying to keep my chatter at a low. Are they in? Are they in? Do tell me. This is my little stash. I shouldn't say little. There's quite a few because each end has a different color. No, I'm asking. I can't wait. The last I heard was any day because they were scheduled to come towards the end of this month. So we're getting close to there. I would suspect any day. So I can't wait for them neither. Okay, we'll just wait till 6:32. I figure I'd give a couple of minutes. I always like to be mindful of those that pop on right on time so that we're not holding you up. So that's good. So I'll explain a little bit about the Come Color With Me series. So it was an idea that I had when I discovered the Olos, and as we're getting overexcited, well, I'm hoping they'll be there Saturday for you too. That would be awesome. So the Come Color Me series is kind of a new series because we're soon wrapping up our journal pages. We have 3 months left to go. So October, I was going to go backwards. October, November, December. And then I wanted to do something with memory decks. I really like memory decks cards so that you get to create something, and as we move into it, once Christmas passes, then there'll be, and we're still going to do techniques on the cards as well, but we're going to incorporate coloring with the Olos, and I am in love with the AALL Create stamps, these little figures, and even the regular stamps. I just love them. So these little Halloween ones come out with the Halloween house. So there's the die cuts for the house. And here is the ones, here's the stamps that I have. So I did create this little, it's just kind of home decor piece. And I'll set it up for Halloween after I'm done this class today. And I thought, well, how can I put this into a memory decks card for you guys to then write on the back what we did, the techniques that we're going to use, and just some pointers for yourself so that if you want to recreate, you can. And you might use the same stamps, the same dies, or you might use different ones. Hi, Carolyn. No, you're not late. We're just getting into it. Not late at all. So we're going to try to recreate this on a smaller scale on a memory decks card. Now the only other thing that I'm using that's not AALL Create is I do have these Tim Holtz moon masks. And there's a couple of different packages in here. He had originally come out with, well, I guess there was 3, but then there's a smaller one. That was part of the special release, and I got the smaller one. It's this one here. So this is the one that I'll use tonight. And the other part that I'm going to try to put in is his die, this Halloween one. I love the pumpkin, but I really bought it for the clouds. I love those clouds. And I think they can just be used in a whole bunch of different things. So I'm going to incorporate maybe a cloud. So I die cut all my pieces already. So this is everything that was in that package. There's a fence in 2 different colors, the word spooky in a green, and then I did 2 gold. The only reason why I did several is because sometimes I'll layer them just to give them a little dimension. And there's a couple of the clouds, some of the spider webs from the AALL Create, some of the bats, and then the house. So the house, I cut it out, and then I just fit a piece of foil paper underneath it to give it that sparkle. So we're going to see how much of that we can put on this little Memory Decks card. And this is the one I'm using. So this, where's my card package? Let me grab it. So I have all the AALL Create Memory Decks. And one Saturday I just sat down and I did a whole bunch of die cuts. And I did them all white because that's pretty much the, well, yeah, I did them all white. So I did a bunch of the dies and then a bunch of the leaves to have all ready. I know, Betty, I love those elements too. They're just so versatile. You know, they could have got away with just selling the Memory Decks die, but they really packed each one with extra bits and pieces. So I cut a whole bunch of each of them that I have in preparation of these classes. So I have them ready to go. And I'm a fan of sitting and just doing, like, cutting. You're not feeling very creative, but you want to do something. So just sit and do a bunch of cutting and have it ready. Like these clouds, I had sat one day and did several sets of them. So these were already inked and ready to go for me. Do you write on those Decks cards? That's the whole idea. So one side will be your Memory Decks card, so the pretty side that sits in. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write on the back any tips that you want to remember on how you created your front. And that's how it becomes kind of like a recipe card, but for crafters, for ideas. So that's the whole idea behind what we're going to do. And we're going to do a whole bunch leading up to Christmas, which will be Christmas themed. And then after Christmas, we'll be doing just random ones that you can use for whatever occasion. Can't wait to see how you do things. Well, it's going to be interesting how I get to fit all these things on this card, and maybe we don't. But I don't care if things hang off, as long as you can't kind of go off the sides because of the box. Well, it depends on what kind of box you're going to have it in. But I purchased the sleigh and the truck of the I don't know the name brand. I have the sleigh right here. So clear scraps. So this one's the sleigh. I don't know if you can see it there. So this is where all my Christmas ones are going to go into. And I may not have enough to fill it up this year, but that's okay, because as the years go by, I'll just store it and I'll pull it out, and either I can use the ideas to create new cards, or we can do a bunch of new techniques. And then I have the truck, which is going to be for my everyday. You have the sleigh in the house. Oh, that's good, Michelle. We're going to have some fun. So first things first, though, let's get coloring. So I already stamped out my little critters, and I did them each twice, just because in case I make a mistake. And I will be fussy cutting these out. You imagine me fussy cutting, but I will, because they are cute. And I have to admit, I forgot my other glasses at work. So I have faraway glasses and I have close glasses. I'm telling my age. So I don't know how neat my fussy cutting is going to be, but I only have to color 2 of these little images tonight. And I have my AALL chart, so you can download these for free on AALL.com. So I just downloaded one, and as I get markers, then I'll color them in. And they have 2 different kind of charts. They have this one, and then they have this circle. I'm kind of coloring them both in, but so far I like this one better to pick out my colors, because I can really see the difference in the colors. So like when I pick up my skin tones for this one, because I didn't write the colors down that I used for my little home decor piece, of course, that would have been too easy. But I know I want like a really pale flesh as the base, and then I'll use one that's a little bit darker for the edges and the highlights. And then you can either stay with the flesh color but just go darker for the rosy cheeks, or you can go up into the pink family. So I'm just going to put this chart aside And I'm going to be referencing it when I pick out my colors. And we'll talk a little bit about the properties of the colors when we get going. So I just have this white piece of paper so that hopefully there's not as much of a glare on the paper. And I already colored in her hair here because this is when I was testing out the inks. The ink that I use for this is the Distress Archival Black Soot. And that's the only thing with alcohol markers that you kind of have to test out. If you have an alcohol-based ink, then of course when you use your alcohol markers it's going to smudge. Memento ink is good. A fail-safe way of doing and using any ink is by putting clear embossing powder on top. So if you have just like one type of ink that's making your marker smudge, ink it, sprinkle some clear embossing powder and heat set it. And that way your ink is kind of sealed underneath. And it also gives you a little bit of edges so that when you're coloring you have kind of a little buffer. But this ink here is good. I'm just going to say test out what you have. Even if it's Memento or something like that, if you don't let it dry completely before you start coloring, it's going to smudge. So these have been stamped out for a little while. So I'm going to look at my chart and like I said, I want something pale. So I'm going to go look for the 1.1. So how I organized my markers, the ones that I have, and this is actually identified as an orange, believe it or not. Some of these colors, well, they're color experts, so who am I to argue with them? I'm not. I could certainly go with this one here is called white peach, so it's like red orange, but they're classifying this 1.1 as orange. That's the OR. The 1 is the saturation, so how dark it's going to be, or how dark. So the lower the number, the paler it is. And then the last number is your value number. So again, your lower numbers are lighter, your middle numbers are mid-range, and then your high numbers are dark. So I'm going to use the 1.1, and then for shading, I might even go up to this 4.2, because even though they're still orange, the 4.2, it's a different color, but it's still low in intensity. So I'm hoping that those will match. Or I could go to the 2.2. We'll see. So I'm going to start with the 1.1. And I have the 2 on the other side. But if I remember correctly, there wasn't enough contrast. So these markers, they screw together. So each one is its own marker. Now, I won't review this each and every time we do this class, but I will again tonight. Each side is its own marker. If you're accustomed to the, oh my gosh, I just lost my word. The other markers. Somebody help me. What's the popular alcohol markers? This is why I usually don't do classes on weekday nights, because my brain is mush. I can't remember it. Copic. Thank you, Michelle. Copics, which are very popular, and if you're accustomed to them, wonderful. I just could never blend them properly. So this is one Olo marker, and there's 2 times the amount of ink in it than what there is in Copics, in one Copic. Thanks, Judy. And I know Olo has done some comparisons to Copics, so that if you're running out of Copics and you want to gently switch to Olo, you'll kind of know where your color palette is. And then you get these little screw tips, which are really cheap. There's 10 in a package. I'm not going to, oh, they're just like threads on both sides, and it allows you to put 2 markers together so that you have a longer tool which makes it easier for coloring. Now, if you're someone who likes to have both ends available to you to see, then you may not want to put them together. And how you put them together is totally up to you, but I think I'm going to stick with the closest numbers so that I know it doesn't matter which way they're sitting in my container, I know the other end's going to be fairly close. So that's a little bit about them. You can get two tips, the brush tip and a chisel tip. I'm just going to be using brush tips. You certainly can get chisel tips if you're liking that to color with, but the brush tip for me is what I prefer. So we're just going to start, and I don't even have to do this, but I'm going back to my old ways of coloring, and that is I put my light base down first, and like you just have to barely touch, and if it's close, really close, all you have to do is dot it and it will flow nicely. But I don't have to do this step. I'm used to doing this step when I was trying to use Copics, and that is putting my light shade down first and then going in with my next shade. But you really don't have to do that with this. I could have done my edges right off and it would have blended nicely. So what color? I think I'm going to go for the 2.2. So that's this one. You do have to be a little bit careful when you take off your caps. That's why I'm doing it to the side, because I've learned if I do it right fast and pop it, I'll flick the little edge. And I just want to see how dark that is. Yeah, it's not too bad. And I'm just going to do a little shading around the outside. I always have it, like you'll have some people saying, oh, the sun coming from the left or the right, and that just stresses me out. But if you understand all of that sun business and you want to do it a certain way, you go for it. But I usually just do my edges, and then if the image has detail on it that kind of shows me where shading would be, like her little outfit, those are creases, so that's going to tell me that that's where the color is going to be the darkest. But for the shading, I usually just kind of, for faces, I just kind of go around the edges, and then I am going to go back in with my lighter color and just blend it in. And you don't have to do the whole thing if you don't want to. You can just do where the colors touch each other. And then I'm just going to leave that sit. So that's her little face. Of course, it looks a little bit darker when it's wet, but I'm just going to leave it sit for a few minutes and let it dry. And then we'll move on to this dude's face. So this is my lighter one. So you have your brush tips, you have your chisel tips. When you need a refill, and this is part of the beauty, I used to always overfill my Copics, and I would have one heck of a mess. I never was able to, oh, I forgot her little hands. I was never able to get that right. So for the refill, it's pretty darn easy. Your refill comes as kind of a marker, and all you do is you keep your cap and you keep your tip, and you pull your nib out with tweezers or your fingers if you don't mind getting inky. You pop the cap off of your new one, you put the tip in, and off you go. Look, I forgot to do her top of her eye there too. I'm gabbing too much. I'm just going to do a little shading on her hands and his hands. And I forgot his ears. I'm just going to do them in with the darker color. But it's pretty slick. Like, it doesn't take you long to color an image. The ink of these, you don't have to prime your tips at all. it's the ink is so fluid that it's just automatically in the tip. You can store them flat, you can store them upright. They're not going to leak unless you have a big issue with a malfunctioning marker, but it's not going to hurt a bit. So I'm happy with that. So that was those two colors. I'm going to put those back, and what do I want to do? I might keep the pale one out, the 1.1, just in case I need to do some shading for the cheeks. So I did like this one here. I did like the kind of the pinky cheeks on this one. So I'm going to see if I can find that color. And if I remember right, I had to do a couple of tests. This one here was too, seems to me that one there was too pale. I might have did the 0.4. But I was careful. So this is red orange, so the RO. So I'm looking for 0.4 or 0.4, sorry. I have to have it here somewhere. Just talk amongst yourselves while we get there. Actually, this is red orange. It's just red, so the 0.4 is the number. I was wondering why it was red orange, but it's R 0.4. So it's from the red family. I'm just going to see how dark that is. So we're just going to go very light and just a couple of dots. And if it is too dark for you, just do a couple of dots. And when you come in back in with your fleshy color that you started with, you can bleach it out. So I don't have the blender marker yet, but if you use a color that's less in intensity than the one that you have, then it will lighten it up. And I'm just kind of dotting around. I don't need much of that color. And just like every other paper, if you rub too hard, it will pill eventually. Yeah, I see Olo's coming out with their own specialty paper. Paper is important. Like this is a Nina 100 pound. I'm not going to lie and say paper is not important. It is important. Forgot to do her eyelid again. But I don't know if I'll be putting my money into the expensive stuff. I'm just assuming it's going to be expensive because the paper for the Better Press is quite pricey, but it's like everything else. It makes beautiful, beautiful art. 2.3. Yeah, I forgot to do her eyelid, so I'm coming back in to do that. Next time when I'll have my markers all ready to go, so you guys don't have to have the painful watching me pull them out. Now this can be flesh or it can be an eyeshadow. We might decide to put eyeshadow on her next. So now I want to pick out her hair. I should have just went with that one, then the hair would have been done. But if I look at my one up there, I did kind of this 2.0. Just going to pull these out so I can see them better. No, this is not 2.0. What did I say? 2.0. I have to rethink my idea that I can do evening classes. I think I'm going to go with one of the darker ones, so 3.4. So 3.4 and 3.2. So maybe I'll start with the 3.2 and then we'll shade with the 3.4. So light to dark. It's just a very, it's almost the same color as her skin tone, isn't it? And I want to try to keep my borders clean, because if I'm going to fussy cut her out, I like leaving a little white border. So I don't want to get it too full of ink. And this is where I said, you know, if the stamp tells me where there's should be dark lines, like these little lines, then that's kind of what I use as my guide for where I put my shading down. Oh, a little bit down here. Might be because the middle of dinner hour. Yeah, no, I had lunch or dinner before I came on. I'll be okay. It's getting dark out earlier too, so that's never good. So he doesn't have hair. His is all his suit. So I'm happy with her hair. And then for her wings, I used a lavender. So I have like violet 4.3 and 4. Oh, this one has both. So this is an inch. This will show you the chisel tip. I knew I had one marker that had both. There's the chisel. And it's just the way this sample came. So chisel is nice if you're doing backgrounds. Like, you know, you can color, you can do a lot of territory with the chisel. But I just can't be bothered. I don't want two markers the same color. I want to spend my money with having more colors. And I'd have to have two, like the same markers with both ends. That's just me. If you're okay with pulling tips in and out and using chisel over brush, you go for it. But to me, it just seemed like it would be too much work. So I'm just going to color in her wings with this little violet. And it's mostly just shading on the wings anyway. We're not going to color them right in. And what I did is I just looked at the packaging to figure out my colors for the first round. Next time maybe we'll do something different. And I will give her eye a little bit of this shadow. Just to kind of matchy match. Now if you don't have all the colors of the rainbow, I do believe it will get darker the more coats you give it. So that's something to keep in mind too. And then I'm going to go in with a little green because, you know, it's Halloween. And this is yellow green and this is yellow green, but I kind of want the darker kind of green, and that's what we're going to do on her outfit. And again, I'm just following the lines. Because she's just an angel that's kind of glowing. We don't want to color all in. You can color her all in if you'd like. And I think I'm going to go back to my purple for her halo. Now, if I want to shade out the center, or not shade it out, but lighten the center so that it looks like it's paler, I'm just going to go back to my 1.1. It's a different color family, but it's lighter. And if I just go over that a little bit, it is going to take the color out. And then we're going to give her eyelashes, the petals, some yellow. What color do I want? This is saying orange again. I don't want orange. This is a little bit bright, but let me see. That's not too bad. Actually, I might put a little bit of this color in her hair to brighten up her hair a little bit. So that's the thing, like, you can play and you can mix colors. She's kind of a dirty blonde. So that's our little girl, and I like her. And so Olo either has a chisel end or brush tip. That's right, Judy. So when you buy your Olos, you can decide if you want the chisel or a brush. For me, I'm gonna get better bang for my buck out of a brush. Now this little dude, so I'm going to use the dark red on him, and then I'll go in and lighten him up. So this is a 1.5 and my lighter one's a 0.4. So I think I'll go in and lighten him up afterwards. So we're just going to color him in. And I am being gentle because the tip, you just have to dot it around the little tiny spaces. But it just inks so beautifully. I'm sure Heather will have a testing station so that if you want to come in and just play with a couple of markers, I'm sure she'll have something there available. Got it. You can switch ends to have one brush and plus one chisel. So Judy, if you want, let me show you again. I'm just going to put the ink. So all alcohol markers, if you don't want to leave them exposed to air for a terrible amount of time because they do evaporate. So this one here is my one that I have. So that's the brush tip. And it's the same color, so it's like two markers, same color, one with a brush, and this end has the chisel. So if I was going to want a chisel tip with all of my colors, this is how I'd have it. Hi, Erin. Because I could not be bothered to take the tip out and make the mess with taking the tip out and putting another one in. I would want the colors the same color, screwed together, one with a chisel and one with a brush. And I might change my mind down the road where I'll want chisel tips, but right now, just playing with what I'm doing, I am very, very happy with the brush tip. Oh shoot, I had a little flick of my hand and went outside the line. I'm going to show you a little trick. So I don't have a blender pen, so I guess I can't show you that trick. But if I had a true blender pen, I could, where that little nick is, I could go in with my blender pen and it would leach out. It would almost, it's like bleaching your paper, really. It would just fade it. But I do have a sand eraser, which is good for watercolor paper, because watercolor paper does erase quite well. It doesn't work as great on this paper, but it does work some. So we'll go in. Or if I had a little bit of white out, I could do that too. But what I do have is a white gel pen, but I don't think it's the same color as white as the paper. I'm going to forgive myself because I don't have good glasses on. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. So I do want a little bit of bright orange. So this is 2.3. That's not bright though. I thought I had one here brighter than that. Just pulling them all out so I can see the tips. I think it was this yellow maybe. I put the yellow on it and I blend it with the red and it made kind of an orange. Yep. So look, you can blend colors together too. I just want a little bit of orange on his. Perhaps Heather would consider a purchase program similar to what she did with the Copics. I'm not sure what that was, but certainly ask her. So this is the sand eraser. I really like these. They're they have sand into them, so they're a little bit rough. You just have to be careful that you don't get too zealous. And I'm being really picky here. Now I'm going to take my lighter red, just because I want to shade a little bit from the top. And it will take you a few minutes to see the change, but you will see it fade a little bit. And down around here, just by making these little lines, it gives them a look of a little bit of a belly. So it does lighten it. You just got to give it some moment, a minute. You see, I don't know if you can see it really good, but it is lightening. I can see a little bit of contrast in the lines of his belly. Now again, if I had a blender pen, and all the blender pen is it's alcohol without any pigment. So it's the base without any pigment. That's still not right orangey. It looks like I have some sort of orange here. I'm being way too fussy, aren't I? And then his cape, I used a dark brown. Again, they're calling these orange. To me, it's very brown, but they're putting it in the orange family. I'm sure they have a reason. I do have all my stuff pre-cut, so once we do our background, it won't take us long. So we're almost done coloring. I'm sure Heather will see this comment, Judy. If she doesn't, though, reach out to her and ask her. It does not hurt to ask She's very reasonable to deal with, so. And I'm not going to do anything with his eye because I'm going to cut out his patch to put over. So the other little thing I did for dimension is I took my Jelly Roll pen, and here where it's a little bit muted out, I just kind of trace little bumps. It just gives them a little bit of dimension, and trace the lines here on her eye a little bit just to make them glow. And did I use it anywhere else? I put 3 little dots up here just because that's what it had on the packaging. And I thought it looked kind of cute. I really want, it's bothering me that his stick isn't, his fork isn't that orange color. I'm going to try laying down a little bit more yellow on this red. There we go. And I know you guys can't see it at all, but I can. So there, we are done with the coloring. Not difficult at all. What do you think? Something you think you can do? I know you can. I'm going to put my markers away. We're going to move on to a different technique. I'm just going to put this aside. I'll fussy cut in a minute, but I want to give that a chance to dry, and now we're going to do our background. So I want to kind of have the same color palette as what I did here. So down here, these are the colors that I chose. Chip Sapphire, I put down for the purpley color. Or sorry, for the blue color, Chip Sapphire. For the purple, Seedless Preserves. And then for the yellow, Fossilized Amber. And these are just regular Distress. These are not the oxide. And then once we do that, for this one here, I glued my moon on the top. And I'll probably, will I do that or put it right on? I kind of thought I might put it right on. But maybe the moon coming off the top would be nicer. I'll think about that for a minute. And then in my, what I'm going to use today, I showed you the mica stains. But I think instead of the mica stains, I'm going to use the spritz. What's the difference, you might ask? So the spritz is clear fluid with colored little sparkles. And it's very sparkly. The mica stain is colored fluid with clear mica. So it's still shiny, but not as shiny. So I think I'm going to go with the spritz this time. Now, if I wanted to, instead of inking, I could just do sprays of the mica and then sprays of the spritz on top. But because it's such a small little area, I want to be a little bit more control because it'll probably end up all one color. And whenever you're using these, just while you're getting yourself ready, lay them on their side so that the mica comes off the bottom, because you really have to shake them. And they all have the balls in them. But if you lay them on the side, it just helps prep the bottles while you're going. So if I'm going to make my moon and cut it out, I'm going to grab a piece of thick paper, and it doesn't have to be the same. This is actually, these are such a great deal. I'm telling you, if you didn't get them. So these are the Minte, and Heather's had them on sale forever. They are great, and them in themselves are the perfect width for memory decks. So already you have a new memory deck style with scalloped tops. So there's these ones, and they used to come in craft and white. I don't know if she has any left. And then there's one with, oh, I had the craft one. And then there's one with this border. Again, a brand new memory decks card. You just have to cut it the length that you want. Perfect. So I'm going to do my moon. What did I do with my piece of paper? I put it back. Because this is the closest thing to me. I'm going to do my moon on this. So let me get the little moon. And like if you have any circle punches, then probably a 1.5 punch will fit this perfectly. So just to put my moon base down, I am going to take frayed burlap, and I just happen to grab the oxide one. Actually, I'm not going to do the frayed burlap. I'm going to do the fossilized amber, because it's going to be up on that part of my sky. And because I'm going to be pulling this or punching this out, I'm not going to be very fussy with it. I'm just going to do a little color. And this is the solid, so that if I wanted to, like if I was putting this right on my paper, right on my page, then I could use this here to kind of maybe make a darker edge. This is like a little bit of brown that I had. So like you could make kind of a glow, but because I'm punching it out, I really don't need that part. But I do need this part. And this is kind of highlights the moon. And I don't want it like really strong colors. I just want it subtle. So I'm just going to color in a little bit. And there's the moon. And I am going to throw a little bit of mica on this one. So I have my splat box. I love my splat box. And this one I'm going to put the mica on because I do maybe want it a little bit darker. And I'm just going to spray it. Can you see that? I don't know if you guys can see that sparkle. But it is nice. So I'm going to put that aside and let it dry. And then we're going to take our piece, and when you cut them out, make sure you're using the right side that you want, like the pretty, I call it the pretty side. And there is a stitch on this one here, so you want the stitch the right way. It wouldn't be terrible if you did it that way. It's just a bumpy side versus an indent. And then we're going to do our colors. So I'm going to put my moon aside. And I'm going to start with fossilized amber. And I'm going to kind of have it this way. Now, if I wasn't on camera, I'd be on my glass mat, because then there's no ink wastage. Because you're able to pick up the ink off your glass and put it back on your paper. But when you craft on paper like this, then once it's on the off paper, then it's kind of gone. But there's too much of a glare, so I didn't want to. Beautiful. Oh, you're kind, Judy. You're very kind. So chip sapphires next, and I do have a bunch of handles. I know Sherry's a little obsessed, but again, I don't want to be sitting here flicking ends off of the same handle, because then I get inky fingers. And when your blue mixes with your yellow, you kind of get this green. And this is distress ink, so like when the spritz hits it, it is fluid, so it will make your colors blend even a little bit better. And then some seedless preserves. I'm just going to flip this around so that I can work better. So like, don't worry about the lines because it will get wet with the spritz. Okay, I'm going to bring our splat box back up. So then this is where you can write all your details afterwards on the back. So like, you know, when you're taking classes, have a little notepad and take your rough notes. Sorry, I moved my camera. And then when you're all done, you can do your good notes on your... So you just mix it enough to where all the stuff is off the bottom. And you're going to see some sparkle with this. So I'm just doing it over the yellow, but like I said, it's wet. So it's going to blend. And then we'll do our blue. The spritz are just phenomenal for color. I like the mica too, but the spritz. What kind of white cardstock did you use? This is Nina 100 pound. I like Nina paper. And like every spritz, depending on how far away you are, will depend on what your droplets will be. And it's kind of curling a little bit, but paper has no memory, so once it dries, it will be down. And I think I am going to pull my heat tool out because I need to finish this tonight. I probably could leave it because we still have to fussy cut our little figures. Well, we're doing good. We're not even at the hour yet. That's good. I tend to get carried away when I think that, you know, nobody has anything else to do but play with me. But this is very sparkly. It's very sparkly. The other thing you can do is if you find whatever paper you have just doesn't have enough oomph to stand up in your memory decks, cut 2 or 3 of them and glue them together. And I might even do that once I get everything on here. I don't have my truck put together yet. So once I do, if I don't feel like it's standing upright with all the weight of the stuff that I'm going to put on it, then I'll just cut a couple extra and put it on the back. And that will give it some nice strong texture. Okay, so now I'm going to put that aside for a minute. It's not dry all the way through, but my gosh, look at that sparkle. Like, that's intense. Very pretty. And I'm going to cut my moon out. So the moon has just a little bit. So that's the difference between the mica. So the color of the moon didn't really change because I wanted to make sure. So I used the mica because the mica is clear fluid with colored mica. So I knew it wouldn't change it wouldn't cover up my shaded areas of the moon. If I had to use the spritz has colored fluid. so it might have covered up the moon. That one's too big. That one's too small. I'm just looking for my right punch. So we got our moon, and we could go in with a little bit of the brown and just do the edges. You could actually do with a little bit of black, would look really nice too. But I just have my frayed burlap out, so I'm going to do the edges. Watercolor paper is really nice too with the spritz. And for the Memory Dex cards, you can use different paper depending on what techniques you're going to use. If I had really thought ahead with putting all the medium down, I might have used watercolor paper, but this is actually, it's holding its own. And the mica stuff, or the spritz doesn't really bleed through, it just sits on the surface. So it's quite nice. And if you wanted to remove some of that, you just spritz it with a little bit of water and it would take up some of that. So let's do a little fussy cutting. Watch Sherry squirm. I do not like fussy cutting. I know some of you are just like all over that. You find it relaxing, I hear. It's not relaxing for me. I'd buy a die anytime. I'm sure it's just going to be a matter of time before the companies come out with dies for their stamps, because they're really advancing in what they're putting out. Like they're coming out with their own card stock now. Designer card stock. I don't know if you guys watched the new release last night, but my gosh, I was drooling. I fell asleep though right at the end. Now I do want to leave a little bit of a white border. That's why I was trying to be so clean about it. I just find it makes it pop a little more. And he's so cute when you have him in real life with the mask. And I'm not cutting out the center of the eyes. And even like I do not cut in through here, or yeah, no. There's only so much this girl is willing to do to fussy cut. But I have learned that you move your paper, not your hand, which does help. And a nice pair of scissors. I have ruined more scissors because in the day of where you put brads on everything, I would cut the ends of the brads off with my scissors. I've learned scissors aren't meant for that. I am going to try to get in here a little bit, but not all the way in. Like I'm not going into his fork, but I am trying to cut out the three points of the fork. What are you guys crafting these days? What are you into? Are you into your Christmas cards? Like October's around the corner, and October 1st has always been the start of my Christmas card. And then by December 1st, I don't want to see it anymore. How's your trip plan? I have time, Judy. So I'm just budgeting. I think it will be fine. I'm not a traveler, so it stresses me out a little bit. But so I plan far in advance. But it will be fine. And I can't wait to meet you guys in person if that's at all possible. I'll let you know when I'm coming. But yeah, I would like to come out and see the new store. Yeah, I know. You know, Facebook and this kind of session, it feels pretty good when people are chatting and typing, and like, you know, it feels like you have company, but it's not the same as the real thing. And I know some of yous are hoping that Dan and Heather puts on some in-person crafts, and I cannot blame you at all. So I'm looking for my pop dots here, or my pop squares, or my pop rectangles, or whatever they are. And you're going to see how cute he is. At first I thought, oh, it covers up too much of his face, but he's so cute. I know, Michelle, it would be awesome. And now that the store has the big space it has, I can't see why that wouldn't be possible. Look at that. Oh my gosh, she's adorable. And the other thing I did is I put, it's not Wink of Stella. Heather explained last night what it was called, because I got one. It replaced the Wink of Stella, but I did his little suit after I glued him on with sparkles. And he's just so adorable. You've been working on the Doodlebug calendar. You mean the one that has, is that the one that has the drawers? Like, fussy cutting doesn't take you a long time, but I guess it's alright. Maybe someday I'll be a fan. What is a Memory Dex card? Hi, Anne-Marie. So a Memory Dex card is one of these ones that has these little slots. And, you know, you can do a lot with Memory Dex. You can, we did a Christmas recipe one last year during one of the Ricky Palooza. I think it was the final one. I think that's the one it was. So it's just like an index card, but it's made to fit into a little box so that you can use it for actual stuff like recipes or pictures or whatever you want. Or you can do what we're going to do, and that is have classes around coloring and using different mediums, and then you get to keep it right on the back of your Memory Dex card with the ideas and techniques that we use, so that you can recreate on your own schedule when you want to sit down and do cards. It just takes the thinking out because you have a reference point to do it. And it's like the old-fashioned, that's how stores, general stores, used to keep track of people's put it on my tab kind of idea, or their inventory. It was all done by these old index cards, or what we now call memory decks, like old libraries used to use them. Michelle been oh, those layered ones, those look interesting. Check out the, oh, they have a few varieties. Oh, you're saying about the memory decks, yes. And then, like I said, you can use anything for your topper. So like if you have dies in your stash that are edging dies or punches, you just have to cut out like square pieces about, you can make them as high as you want. It's just the width of it has to stay the same for your box. And yeah, you can like do your own edging too. I just love dies because they're simple. So here's our two little people. They're cute. And here's our moon. So now let's put this together. I don't know how much of this I'm going to get on. So I'm thinking I'm going to have my moon raised up a little bit and kind of off to the side. I'm going to start with that. Pop dots, score tape is my friend. This is my favorite. It's the roll of the wider stuff, wider, thicker. I really like it. So there's the moon. Gonna have some dimension. Now I'm gonna take all my other pieces down here. So we got little bats, and I put the shimmer on the bats as well. Just going to take them all down here so you can see what we have to work with. A couple of the clouds. And the paper I used to cut these out was an old Tim Holtz product. It was the Coordinations. So, and it has craft core. So if you sand it, the craft comes out through, and it just gives it a distressed look. Judy, yes, the 2x2 boxes I've layered solids behind the number pieces. Nice. So here's all my pieces, and I know I'm not getting all of these on here, but I'll just, what I do with the extras is I put them in the package and I save them. So there's going to be the house, and I may not even get the two of these little dudes on here, but I really want to. I might have to put the house up a little further. Don't want her in the moon. I'm just going to lay them down first. Spooky. Now it's okay if I put this down here, but I just have to make sure that it's glued in really well so it doesn't affect the placement of my memory decks. So that I know for sure is going to go down there. So I'm going to get my glue gun here. This is awesome. This little My Sweet Petunia glue gun. What I like about it is that it is just so fine in its dots. You can do really nice precision dots of glue, even on the skinniest things. I keep forgetting to put it in its holder. And in case you didn't know, the reason why you have to put it in the holder is that there's a rubber stopper and it prevents the end from clogging up. And the glue dries white, so if you get a little leakage, that's okay. And that bat's almost too big. Oh, I like that bat there. I'm really enjoying how this is turning out. It's hard to believe we're going to get so much on a memory decks card. And I like the spooky there. And I'm only Like I said, I thought I might layer them, but I don't think it needs it because the moon's popped up. I may not get my clouds in there. Well, maybe. Maybe one cloud right across the house like that. Oh, I like that. Okay, let me put the house down. And you don't need a lot of this glue for it to really stick. So this is giving you a card idea. So just think about it for Halloween. If you have these products, or even if you don't have these products, you can look through your stash and figure out what you do have to recreate cards, Halloween cards like this. And then you set yourself up a little assembly line where you do all your backgrounds and then you do all your die cuts. I think I'm going to put a little bit of foam. I think I can. I have a little tin can right beside me that has all kinds of different sizes. These stop sign sizes, I don't know. It was my friend that gave me her stash of stuff. But I don't know where she got them, but I'm just about out of them. And I'm happy I am because they are an odd shape. But I didn't want to see them go to waste, so I've been using them up. It's going to slide right under our moon. Oh, it's looking pretty cute, I have to say so. I'm just trying to see where I can position these little critters. Hi Jennifer, always welcome to have you. And these are all recorded for anybody new out there. You can watch them on your own time. But yes, I'm always happy. It feels really good when we see you guys on here. Even if it's just for a minute. So I popped him up. And I really want to put both of these on here. I'm struggling. Maybe I won't pop her up. I'll put her flat. And it's going to cover up some of the house. But I'm okay with that. You kind of get the gist of it. Oh, you were her navigator. Well, I'm telling you, I'm not sure. Our healthcare system is not like your guys's where you have MR. I think Heather had said she went out on, like, had an appointment at midnight. I guess there's good points to that, and that, you know, you get people through, but my gosh, I have never heard of that. We could put part of a fence here. CAT scan tomorrow at 10:30. Wow. Yeah, like I said, the good point is you're able to get people through the system, and where we unfortunately we wait months for appointments. So if you guys don't have to wait the months, perhaps it's worth it. Everybody says Canada's healthcare is free, and it's not free by no means. It's we pay for it through our taxes. A little fence there, and I glued her down, so I don't think I'm getting another fence in here. That's okay, but I do want a couple more bats, and then I'm calling this done. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Jennifer. That's so hard. Well, that's why I do what I do. It takes stress away, and I hope she finds some sort of activity to help her, as well as yourself. Being a family advocate is one of the hardest jobs there is out there. And I know that firsthand. And I love going in threes, but I don't think I'm going to be able to squeeze another bat in there. But how cool is that? I like this better than our home decor piece. Yeah, I can relate, Jennifer. I am in my 30, oh my gosh, what year am I? I'm in my 38th year of nursing. So I completely understand. And that is why I do what I do. So what do you guys think? I think it is adorable. So then you flip it over, you jot down all your notes that you want to take from tonight's session, whether you craft it with me or not. Like if you want to know, if you want to take notes a little bit on the Olos, you can put a little note here, facts about Olos. Or if you want to write down the difference between the distressed mica and the spritz, then you can do that. It's really whatever. If you want to take note of what we use, this is number 64. And I love the fact that they number them. And this stamp set is number 1201. It is super cute. It is adorable. And it's going to be my first in the memory decks. And I'm impressed. 1 hour and 18 minutes. And mind you, I had things die cut, but we were able to create the background, color, and oh, I almost forgot my link of. I gotta figure out what the name of it is. It's called Uniquely Creative, and it doesn't have a name on it, but it's kind of like the Wink of Stella's. So I'm just going to do a little bit because, you know, there's not enough shimmer yet. But I did his red suit. And it's like a water base with shimmer into it. So his red suit, and then I did her wings, and of course her eyeshadow. I'm gonna make that all sparkly, and her angel. Because you can't have too much sparkle. I'm impressed too. Thanks, Jennifer. Well, that's it for tonight. I hope it's left you inspired to create and have some fun. And this is adorable. And AALL Create they're just a wonderful company. And I love them so much. And we're going to do all kinds of Christmas little people. I have them already lined up. And we're going to have lots of color sessions and fun memory decks cards. So that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Take care now.